Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio in high fidelity.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show one more time. And guess what, folks? Out of emergencies can come a new type of show, right? So anyhow, I had a personal emergency today, so therefore, as I sat in Starbucks right in the show, I started to say I had to leave abruptly, which means there was no time for the blog of the week, which means there was no time for all these particular issues. But let's not worry about that. There's a whole lot to cover, and I want it to be you. And so this is an experiment. I want to see if you guys are going to tell me what you want to talk about, starting from going ahead and put it under the Facebook page. And I already see that Senor Rodman, Michael Rudden, wants to talk about Julian Assange. So we will also talk about Julian Assange. You know what? This is going to be an interesting show because you guys are going to test to see how up to speed I am on all these issues. So you can test me on how much I am up to speed by going ahead and tell me what subject you want to talk about, and we'll hit it up. Anyway, folks, give us a call. This is a call-in show as well. The call-in number is 646-716-5812. But before I go any further, I want to ask you a big favor. Share right now. If you are watching this show right now, I'm asking you to share. The Facebook algorithm has changed, and unless you show in the beginning of the show that you're watching, they are going to throttle it down and it won't get into your friends and other people's feeds. So the first thing I'm asking you to do right now, share now, right away. We have all the people that are on Facebook Live and on Blog Talk Radio. We need you to, one of the first things that you do, share, share, share. Very important. So again, you are going to be the one that's going to dictate the topic. Mostly out of necessity, but you're going to dictate the topic where to talk it. So right now, one topic on hand is Julian Assange. So you guys go ahead and tell me some other topics that you want to talk about. I'll add that to the repertoire. There are some that I want to talk about, even though it's right off the top of my head as well. But go ahead and tell me. Beforehand, I want to remind you folks that are just coming in, and the reason I'm repeating myself is folks are just starting to come in. Folks are starting to come in. Folks are starting to come in. Come on in, and the first thing I'm asking you to do, share. Share on your wall. Share on your page. If you have a Twitter, tweet it. If you have Instagram, Instagram it. If you have Tumblr, tumble it. So let's go ahead and do it. Okay, local politics today. Les McConnell, if you want to talk local politics, we will talk local politics as well. In fact, I would love you to call in, any one of you to call in at 646-716-5812. Again, that is 646-716-5812. We don't bite here. In fact, we're very nice people out here, and we speak to everybody no matter what side of the spectrum you're on. We love to entertain you with actually, you know what we do, though? We entertain with truth, right? You go ahead and you listen to the other channels. Everything that you're going to hear today is, well, you know what the subjects are going to be on TV today. I mean, I can tell you without saying anything else what the subjects are going to be. It's going to be Stormy Daniels. It's going to be, they just replaced the VA guy. And the third thing is going to be Russia. And they're going to keep circling that, even though there's a whole lot of things to talk about. And in fact, when you hear me talk about a little bit about the news today, you're going to see that is exact. There's so much missing. You know, when the Flint water problem was there, everybody talked about Flint, not realizing that there are a whole lot of Flints out there. And, you know, Flint got a whole lot of thing. You know, Flint was this a minority community that they forgot about. But guess what? As Gupta did yesterday on CNN, he showed in Appalachia a whole lot of bad water, a whole lot of contaminated water all over Appalachia. In Southwest Texas, a lot of contaminated water. This stuff affects us all, folks. All this not knowing affects us all. So anyhow, the telephone number is 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Will you be brave? Will you call? Let me go ahead now and find the page that we're talking about, because as it turns out, I don't have my page up quite yet, but I will have my page up. So folks, keep telling me the subject. Welcome, Rene Perpetua. Welcome aboard. Rollback of environmental protections step by step. That's a good one. Let's see. Chase Escamilla, the gap of basic knowledge. Now I'm older. Let's see. The gap of basic knowledge. Let me see if I understand that. The gap of basic knowledge now. I'm older, and older generations kind of expressed that on me. And why don't you call in, Chase, and tell me exactly what you mean by that? Again, so guys, and more folks coming in. This is your show. You're the one that's going to dictate the subject. What I'm trying to do is get more subjects in that I'm going to talk about as you guys come in. The first thing I'm asking all of you to do is go ahead and share the program. Share the program right away. VA is a single payer. Yes, Bruce. So we are going to, if you want us to talk about that as well, VA being single payer, and not only that, but very successful. Most people you'll find like the VA. So come on in. I need some more folks to continue sharing the page. Please go ahead and continue sharing the page. We're going to start the show in about a minute. And before I go ahead and start, let me just kind of tell you guys that this is a progressive radio show. And what I ask all the listeners who are able to is to become part of the family and subscribe to Politics Done Right. As you can see there, http patreon.com/politics done right. Again, we are patreon.com/politics done right. Since I already have a caller, before I even go into the mini news of the day and so forth, I'm going to bring the caller in. Let's start early and just don't leave somebody hanging on the phone, and then I'll just put you on hold and then go with the program. Who do I have the honor of speaking with on the phone right now?
Hey, Egberto, it's Liz McConnell.
Liz, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm very well, my friend. How are you?
Everything is going fine. So you said you wanted to talk local, and I'm going to ask all my national... Yes, go ahead, Liz.
I know everybody's chomping at the bit to talk about Russia, to talk about Julian Assange and single payer, but something's going on right now. I just kind of wanted to highlight with you really quick, if I may.
You please do that. This is your show.
We've got HPD out today at the Wheeler camp, rousting the homeless. They just rousted them the other day as well. And I want people to be aware of this because this is cruel and inhumane.
Absolutely.
This is criminalizing people for being poor.
That is so true. Let me explain to folks. I mean, we have all kind of homeless problems here in Houston. And in fact, the mayor, which I completely disagreed with, I think during the Astros World Series, to try to make the city look antiseptic, then they moved them from under the bridge right at the what's the name of the center? The Minute Maid Park. What is it called? Is it still Minute Maid Park?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And so yes, we have a poverty problem and homelessness. I think the truth of the matter, Liz, is I love to see the homeless for one particular reason. They're expressing a problem that goes hidden in society. I tell a lot of people all of the times that one of the biggest problems in America is that we have learned how to suffer in silence. In other words, look to your right, look to your left, and look up front. Of those people you just looked at, one of them have no health insurance. Of all those people that you looked at, one of them are having financial problems. We live a quiet silence. And because of this silence that Americans, we as a society are living in, what happens then is you think you're alone. and because you think you're alone, you're scared to join that fight. One of the things I love about you, Liz, and many of the other people you run with in all these different organizations is you're out there making a difference, which is what we have to do. And just like you came on this show today and said, hey, I want to highlight that the HPD, that the HPD for the national folks is the Houston Police Department. They're harassing the homeless. And what part of town were they in this time?
They were at the Wheeler encampment there, under Wheeler. There's the underpass there,
right?
Where there's a very large community of homeless, that gather there. And the problem, Egberto, is it butts right up against Midtown, which is a little more affluent and strongly the strong voting block there, And so the mayor and city council pay attention to those folks when they complain about homelessness.
The thing about it, Liz, is that the mayor is elected by everybody. So everybody, it's not just by those people in Midtown. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you, Liz.
No. And, I understand that that the homelessness does create problems in the neighborhood, but we can't just keep rousting them. They literally have nowhere to go.
Absolutely. If you want to do that, try to create some sort of a temporary housing. I mean, a lot of these people are veterans. I don't know if you've ever spoken. Well, I'm pretty sure you've spoken to them before. Folks, before I go further with Liz, Liz, please go ahead and share this program right now. If you are listening in right now, we need you to share it so that it goes up this channel on Facebook. For those that are on Blog Talk Radio, please remember that you can call in at any time, 646-716-5812 and 512. I'll be coming to you right after Liz. Liz, anything else you wanted to talk about local? Tell me a little bit about, and this has national connotation, District 7 and the two women that are running. What can you tell me, and what are your thoughts on that election, on that particular congressional race?
Oh, Egberto, you're not going to get me. I am staying completely out of that.
I figured you would do that, but I had to try.
I don't live in District 7. We have two women running that, I wish them all the best, but I am really staying out of that.
Well, a lot of us activists, specifically progressive activists, kind of don't want to get involved in there, because I think we have two good women that are running in that race, and either one of them would be a good replacement for what's his name? God, slipped my mind. Help me out. Culberson. It'll be a good replacement for Culberson.
Yeah, and there have been issues with both of the progressive candidates.
Right.
And I've seen Laura Moser. Laura Moser has tried to step up and make things right.
Right.
With people that she had offended.
Right.
And so,
Well, I believe in redemption,
I'm
Liz.
willing to give her that chance.
Yeah, look, let me tell you something. Like I tell people, everybody have a good side, a bad side, bad thoughts, and all of that. We're conditioned by how we grew up. We're conditioned by whom we hung around. We're conditioned by a whole lot of things. If everybody judged everybody by the absolute worst that they did, nobody would talk to anybody and nobody would like anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, Liz,
so,
go ahead.
I have great hopes that we can win that seat.
With not hopes, Liz, what you guys are doing with Pantsuit Republic, what you're doing with Indivisible Houston, Indivisible TXO2, Indivisible TXO7, Swing Left, all these organizations are going to get the job done because you're working hard, and I hope that you get that the unions continue to stay involved after the primary is over and make sure that they keep those people ready for November. Liz, let me put you on hold so I can get 512 in, and then I'm going to get a little bit more formal with the program, and then we'll continue. Okay, let's go ahead. 512, who do I have the honor of speaking with?
Chase from The Matrix.
Hey, this sounds like Chase K. Escamilla. Am I correct?
That is correcto, perfecto.
Perfecto, hermano mío. Mira, tell me a little bit. I didn't quite understand what you wanted to talk about, so you kind of confused me. Listen, I don't want you millennials confusing this Gen Xer, okay? And notice I'm saying Gen Xer. I'm right at the cusp of Gen X and baby boomer, but I do not claim baby boomer because that would be taking too much credit on the disaster that has occurred to the millennials. So go ahead, talk to me.
I won't hold that against you, okay?
Thank you,
So
brother.
I'm the oldest millennial, so we're at the end. No, man, I'll make it quick, short, and sweet, man.
Okay.
I know, I don't know, to your listeners, I try to come on once a week for support, and as well, my big concern is, brother, I'm trying to get my dogs out, too, while I do all this.
Mm-hmm.
My big concern is, man, I know you talked about Toys R Us and that closing.
Yes.
You know how I am. It's technology.
Right.
We're dealing in the most advanced technology year ever in the history of the world. America has gone through prosperity for over 300 years.
Right.
All of this stuff is designed this way. From, I'm not even going to get into the digital ads that Trump did and his creative digital team. And investing $150 million in Facebook and Clinton doing zero, we knew it would be over from there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get into that. What I'm concerned about is consumer attention, and us millennials are now giving up because the whole point of life is learning from past generations and the reflections of our past generations and growing. And what my parents did was don't talk to strangers.
Right.
Don't question our authority. You will listen. Now we have the power to see each other real time. We're going to question everything, especially those systems that you said that were so special, that we're poking holes in right now. All those brick and mortars closing. We understand we have tools. We understand how to use the tools. We want to be with our families, yada, yada, yada. We use voice to pay all our bills, grocery shops. We're done in 5 minutes for the whole month. We can get out there and grow and make this world better. What I noticed is 10 years ago, everyone, like our parents, I'm always so busy. What are you so busy about? What are you doing that's so driving you mad? Is that's not the way to live. So we just see it different. And now that all of us are connected globally, we all are getting laughed at in the States because we're so far behind in technology. Well, we're not, but we're not using it now.
Well, you're so right about that. I want to break you up here where you said we're behind in technology. It's not that we're behind in technology. It's that just like we have income and wealth inequality, we also have technology inequality. Somebody like you are well aware of all the stuff that's out there. Unfortunately, there's a large percentage of our population that don't have the wherewithal to have those things. And in the process of not having that, it does make many of us look like we were a backward country, and that's what we're seeing. Look at what was the biggest show of the week, and somebody in the notes said, Thomas Mouse said as a topic that he wanted us to discuss was Roseanne Barr. And yes, I would love to discuss Roseanne Barr too. But I tell you what, Escamilla, let me ask you to hold 1 second because I want to give notice to everybody that came on to the Facebook Live page and said some things, meaning that they wanted something. So we have here. Thank you, Liz McConnell, for putting out the number for the mayor of Houston and to go ahead and say not to criminalize homelessness. Let's see. We have Rene Perpetua, who wants to talk about millennials for their awareness and activism. We also have welcome aboard Jules Anu, my good friend. And let's go ahead and we also have, let's see, Rene Perpetua wants to also talk about rollback of environmental protection. I had some issues with that. And Chase, the gap of basic knowledge. Very true. That's you, Chase. We have Kimberly Renfro, who wants to talk healthcare and how the middle class is being left out. I'm going to talk about that one first, actually, just because that's to my heart. And that ties in well with Bruce Pollard's VA as a single-payer system. Thomas Mouse also wants to talk about the anti-gun violence movement. Let's see. Liz brought up the criminalization of homelessness, so I think I took that one over already. And what technology is going to do to America in real time. So since you are on, Mr. Escamilla, go ahead and finish up the topic that you wanted to talk about, and then I'll move on to another one.
Man, just we have the tools. We're ready to go. We know that, okay, what's the end game here? This whole year is the most important in the world, right, in a global scale.
Yes.
What is the end game after? I mean, and since let me answer this: how are people going to get jobs if they can't work a computer?
Okay, let me stop you and answer. I want to answer that end
when
game.
you buy healthcare on Amazon,
brother,
next year and you can't work Amazon.
I want to stop you right there
I gotta
because you asked the most pertinent, most important question. What is the end game? And here is the problem. There ain't no end game. And why do I say it this way? And this is very important what I'm going to say here. These people that run the capitalist society, the capitalist economy, remember, an economic system is not divine. And I'm coming to you 832 next. An economic system is not divine. An economic system is human made. Now, we created a system where it's maximized for a very few. They don't tell you that. What we have is a very small top, the 0.1%. Then we have the 1% defending the 0.1%. And then we have the 5% defending the 1%, the 10% defending those above them. And each level of each degradation, right, has something to lose. And the way the system is set up. And, you know, people think, oh, did they really organize it that way? It's implicit that that's just how things work. And the problem about it is that the creators of this system aren't necessarily what you would call, the great intelligent ones, right? I mean, I would look at somebody like one of my listeners here that I know personally, Bruce, very smart physicist, chemist, I don't remember which one of the PhDs he has. But if an economic system was designed by somebody like that, one would expect it to work a hell of a lot better than it was in the laissez-faire manner in which, what's the name of the person who best described capitalism a few hundred years ago? Smith, okay? What you see is that we don't have these systems that really have an end game that you're looking for. What it is how do we get from today to tomorrow, right? So that's why you hear capitalists always talking about growth. You ask an engineer like myself, my thing is, what is this deal about growth? Growth is geometric and exponential. And eventually, after a while, you can't grow anymore based on the physical restrictions on the particular economy you created. So there ain't, let me be correct, there isn't an end game. It is how do we get to tomorrow? Right now, Americans are screwed, right? We've already extracted not completely, but we've extracted so much already out of America that it's not the best market anymore. The new markets are India, China, Brazil, and these other places because there's so much to extract from them because there's so much growth that these guys have. Until we as Americans start understanding that we are just commodities in a game, that game that was designed to keep a few afloat, that's when we will decide to change to an economy that makes sense. Do you follow what I'm saying? And this this gig economy that we're talking about here, that a lot of the millennials are taking advantage of because they have no choice. It's a gig economy that has no future for the individual. Look, as a political activist myself, now, you notice I come on screen. I want subscription so that we can continue doing this. I mean, I may have to use the gig economy for at some time, but to make ends meet at some time. But the reality is that you cannot depend on that to create a foundation, an economic foundation for a people. And that is what that's what they're doing. When we have the Uber and the Uber and the Lyft and all these other guys, you cannot build a viable society on these types of structures. We have to have better structures. And the ones that are taking the brunt is your generation, my brother. I got to go to the other call, but stay with me, okay? Because I still want to talk some more with you. You have some great commentary. Let's go ahead and go to line 832. Who do I have the honor of speaking with on 832? 832, you're
Hello?
on. Yes, you're on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, Bruno.
How are you doing? Who am I speaking to?
This is Jules Denew.
Jules, how you doing?
I'm good.
Great. Let me hear from you.
I really wanted to weigh in on your topic today.
Please do.
Okay, so I've been seriously thinking about this because you made a point with the other caller when you said economic system is human-made.
Exactly.
And it's not just in fact, businesses or corporations, but one of the things that I've been really paying attention to, especially since I've been in this country, is the impact of these economy on our criminal system.
Right.
And just with all the issues that are going on in terms of how we have a lot of our black brothers and sisters being criminalized and put into this system. Knowing that the system is human-made, and we know that it's a systemic problem that's been going on not for decades but for a century in terms of the economic structure on our black and brown brothers and sisters. The fact is, if it's human-made, how do we change that? Because it starts somewhere. And when we actually look at the problem, when you have a sheriff making money off the system, when you have crime being completely dependent on the criminals, and it's in every rural area. When you look at all the crimes that are going on, they're all in the black and brown communities. We know that there are issues in terms of lack of education, lack of economic structures in these areas. But how do we as a people change it? Where do we start?
Let me tell you what this is my goal, right? When I gave up, and for those who are first coming here, I gave up on business within the capitalist society 100%, not 100. I slid out of it because, since the death of my father, this has been my calling. Let me just put it that way. I've always been a political person, but after I saw the shortness of life, the quickness in which life could go away, I said, you know what? We've always talking about somebody making a difference. And, you sit down and say, you know what? Yeah, we need to do X, Y, Z. Julie, there are all these things that needs to get done, right? And in my case, it was like there's all these things that I want to do, but I can't serve several masters at one time, So now was the time. Now was the time for me to make that change. Why did I put it in my context? Everybody that's listening to me right now, what Julie just asked is the profound question. How do we start to do it? We start to do it by first breaking the barriers that prevented it to have been done in the first place. The people who created these economies and societies are very smart, right? They know that it's just there to benefit a few. So what they have to do is they have to create mechanisms to keep people, number one, apart. When you talk about our black brothers and our brown brothers and so forth being maligned, that is what they do, right? In other words, you criminalize these folks. You make it look like there's a sect of society that needs to be incarcerated. And yes, and we can make some money off of that. Think about all the money that's made on jails and the money that's made in selling cars to cops and selling equipment to keep people down. That is one of the issues. But here's another kicker that nobody talks about. Our white brothers and sisters out there in Appalachia. The same problems that you have in the ghettos here, the same kind of arrest records, the same kind of these guys working in the fields, in the prisons and all of that, that's there too. But it is not in the interest.
I agree that's there too.
Right, and here's the kicker though.
But this.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Because I wanted to make a more significant point.
This is the issue that I'm seeing. Because when I really, when I came to this country, I came on the concept that this was a country, and it still is a country of great opportunity.
Yes, it is.
But it's for a selected few.
Yes.
And you say, okay, you can work hard and you can do it, but there's a certain perspective that's given. I know, being here as a black person, when I start talking, people say, "Oh, you're not like them." Right. So they even force you to say at that point, well, maybe it's not them. Maybe it's not me. It's actually them. That is the problem. Right. But these people, when you look at the situation, you look at where they're being criminalized. One of the issues I saw on the telly the other day, they did a documentary in regards to Ferguson. Mm-hmm. The systemic issue in Ferguson is the fact that these people were being criminalized in order to really fund
the government,
the judicial system.
Yes, exactly.
So they were basically being criminalized for not wearing the appropriate clothing.
Right.
$200 for saggy pants. When you
Right.
couldn't come up with the money for the saggy pants, then they would fine you for something else.
Or for
And
being
you
late
were
in paying
literally
it, yes.
stuck in a system,
Right.
an ongoing cycle.
Right. Let me,
How do you amend that?
Julie,
How do you amend the systemic racism? And then this is what it said. Oh, well, they need to stop doing the crime.
right.
Well,
This is where this is the
how do you say stop doing the crime when you're not actually doing anything?
right. The reason I wanted to bring in Appalachia first, right, is because you say, how do we first solve the problem? And my thing was we're not solving the problem at all right now the way things are, right? There's a specific reason why I always bring in Appalachia and those folks into the argument, right? Because there's a big important thing that America lacks, right? And that is something known as empathy, right? You just stated
I
it
agree.
yourself. You
Absolutely
just
agree.
stated it yourself, because here's what you said. Here is this black woman in you, meaning you, in America. You have this slight
Yeah.
British accent, right? And you're talking, and
Right.
the way folks are able to deal with you and say that you're not one of them. You're not like the others, right? You create that sort of a distinction,
Exactly.
and that way folks
It's
don't feel
segregation.
right, and they don't feel as bad to look down at, let's say, the person who lives in X ward in Houston or X ward in Los Angeles or whatever. But when I bring in the same behavior that you have in X ward in LA or X ward in Houston, and I show people that these are socioeconomic issues, we can then work together, right? And suddenly people start to bring up an empathy. Look, I don't need to be white to feel something a white person is going through when something bad is happening to them. And I know a whole lot of white people that are with me in the movement. I can look at my friend who just called in, Liz McConnell, who is in the movement, and they can empathize with other folks. I mean, because remember, this is just pigmentation, baby. But, you know, they can empathize with it and see through the eyes of others. My goal within the movement that I work within is to first do that. We have to first be able to see through each other's eyes, right? And once you get there, you can then start working together really to solve the other issues. Because what I spoke about earlier about what the plutocracy does is it creates these divisions. So before we can even work together, we're talking about who gets this piece of the crumbs. Houston is a 33 city. Sorry, I'm not excluding Asians or all that, but what I'm saying, the major ethnic groups in this state, in this city, are Latinos, blacks, and whites. Okay,
And whites.
not to exclude our Asian brothers and all that good stuff. All right, but what I'm saying, those are the major groups.
Right.
But you find yourself a lot of times that you have the black folks and the Latino folks in this city fighting for crumbs, you know, and that is because they create these things. So my goal is to put all these folks together and say, hey, baby, we are all in the same boat. Let's look at this. And then what I try to do is make it that folks can empathize with each other. I can look through your eyes, Julie, as a black foreigner in America. I can look through the eyes of my black brothers that are from America. I can look into the eyes of my white brothers and sisters. White brothers and sisters that have never sat down and honestly worked with minorities, giving them the space to screw up in the things that they think about folks that look like me and you, and at the same time not judge, but say, now let's work together. Now that you know you've been misinformed for your entire life, now that we are opening the door, that's one of the reasons I keep my show the way I do. In other words, I always tell folks, this is a no judgment zone. I don't care if a Ku Klux Klan person comes on to my show, we're going to talk. And the idea then is when we start opening eyes, then we can start working together. And you know what? I actually see that work on a micro level with the folks that I'm interacting with. And the goal with shows like mine is to hope like that folks listen, watch, and see this in action and then mimic it. And you know, geometric progression is great. You know, it is great that you move on. So that is my answer to you. That is my 10,000 feet above the ground answer to your question, my friend. And that is, let's get folks first working together and respecting each other. Once you get over that hurdle, then the plutocracy better watch out. That's why on my show I always say, whenever we can unite Appalachia, the ghettos, and the barrios, a big stereotype. But when we do that, baby, we got it going. You see what I'm saying?
Well, one of our challenges we do have is the media at the moment, because that is creating more separation than
specify the media, the mainstream media, not independent media. And by the way, since you gave me a plug here, a place to put this, I can say, folks, and if you want to continue hearing sensible dialogue that's trying to unite folks and get stuff done, don't forget to subscribe to Politics Done Right, because that's what we're doing right now. We're saying we need to stay alive. We need to have this stuff continue. So remember to go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright and be a subscriber to our show. Anything else you want to add, Julia? I love that you called in and had some pretty deep questions, like you always have, or pretty deep comments as well.
Thank you for taking me.
Anything else you want to add?
I listen all the time. I don't always listen at the time but I really appreciate you doing this.
Thank you so kindly, Julie. Okay, let me refresh my screen.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let me refresh my screen and see what else I have to add. And folks, I'm going to get to everybody, whether I get to you on the show or not. I am going to get to you. Know that I always answer all of your questions, no matter, or make comments to anything that needs commenting. Okay, there is a systemic, this is from Matthew T-Man. There is a systemic dehumanization of groups. Humans are naturally tribalistic, and those traits are exploited to make us fear the other. The more we interact with people different than ourselves, the more we can empathize with their plights. In my limited experience, Matthew, that doesn't sound like limited experience to me. What you just said was a statement of fact. You know, one of the things about it is if you're, it's hard as hell to hate somebody you're breaking bread with. It's hard as hell to do it. I don't know about you, but I can't. Okay, let's see. Arturo Willis, that is my hermano, mi hermano de Nueva York. That is my cousin. He's from Panama as well. Thank you, my brother. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for listening, Arturo. Let's see. We have Rene Perpetua again. We need to bring integrity and compassion back into politics. My good friend Michael Rudman talking about that sheriff profiting from his position. No kidding. He left the link. You know what? We love Michael Rudman because he goes ahead and he sticks all kind of information in the feed. You're like our real-time encyclopedia, Michael. Thank you. Bo Campbell, my buddy from California. Great point you made. There is no end game in corporate America. Absolutely no end game. Michael Rubin again. Lee Camp. Corporate capitalism weight every decision by how much profit it will make, helping people. And you know what is the worst thing about a profit that they talk about? Let me see who said that. Michael. The bad thing about it is this: they don't count on externalities, right? Because right now we're paying $2.35 for gasoline here, right? And the some of that is taxes, and a whole lot of that is profit for the oil company. What they don't tell you is that out there in Pasadena Alley, it's known as Cancer Alley, right? Those things were caused by the corporation. There's nothing in the price of that gas that pays for the insurance and the health care for those people who got screwed. All of this stuff is stuff that nobody talks about, right? Nobody's going to say that these companies present a clear and present danger and they don't pay for the externalities that are affected by them. Let's see. Love the millennials for the awareness and activation. Me too. Okay, we said we're going to talk a little bit about healthcare, let me just tell you one thing, and then we'll expand on this on some other show. I don't know how in our living hell we accept the healthcare system that we have today, or probably that we've ever had. But right now, my wife went in to see a dentist today, sat in a chair because her teeth got broke for doing a certain something. Anyhow, and when they looked at it, there's a computer screen. You're lying down with an illness, even if it's a cracked tooth or whatever. You're lying down there, and they're telling you what they need to do. And there's a computer screen that comes right up in front. I mean, it blew my mind. I don't go see doctors and all of that. So when I die, I'm just going to drop out and it's going to be over. But anyhow, it is funny because You sit down in a chair, and there comes a computer screen on a swivel, and it tells you exactly what they're going to do and how much each overpriced item that they're going to work on is going to cost you. And first of all, the prices are ridiculous, but that is what it's like. You go ahead and you see a doctor, the first thing that they ask you, do you have insurance? Do you know what to? You're in pain. You're stressed out. And the first thing you're asked is you're going to pay for. Now, I always tell people that what we really need in America is a single payer system. And we're going to have a show completely, again, I've done it before at KPFT, on single payer systems and why it is the only solution to the problem. Because, first of all, there is absolutely no reason why we should segment what's known as the American risk pool. Why there are people paying some crazy rates for insurance and some other people that are paying some very low rates is what's called the bastardization of the insurance pool. What that means is in a bunch of private insurance companies come out. This is how it worked in the past. A lot of private insurance companies came out, and all of them start looking for customers. But every customer that they look for has to be a customer that's healthy because they want to take your premiums that they don't want to pay, right? So if they get healthy customers, they take up a lot of premium but don't pay. What that does is it leaves a whole lot of sick people on the market, and those sick people on the market then have to buy insurance that costs a hell of a lot more money that generally they can't afford, so they stay uninsured. Those uninsured then go to the emergency room where they need care, where the law says you have to at least stabilize them in the emergency room, but then you can let them go off and die after that. That is our healthcare system. It's still Obamacare mitigated some of that in that they couldn't drop coverage if you had pre-existing conditions, and they couldn't rescind your policy, and they couldn't there was no limit to how much once you're insured, whatever it cost, they had to pay. But we got Brother Trump in now. And what Trump is saying is, we're going to bring back those junk policies. And guess what? They're not going to make that official until October. And because they're not going to make it official until October, meaning that they're going to start back selling junk insurance, and I'll explain what junk insurance is in a little bit. But because they're not going to sell that junk insurance until October or approve it till October, insurance companies have to decide, wait a minute, just maybe he allows junk insurance. If he allows junk insurance, less people are going to buy the real insurance on the markets, and they're going to go buy the junk insurance, which means we'll have less people to insure, which means prices are going to skyrocket. You see? So that's one way that they're skyrocketing the process. The other process that is being used to skyrocket the thing is the payments to insurance companies that are not ever guaranteed. In other words, because the law said everybody that applies to the market has to get the insurance that they applied for, whether sick or not. If a particular company is unlucky to have most of the sick people, the government is supposed to subsidize that. Well, under Trump, maybe not. Maybe we'll do it. Maybe we won't. That uncertainty is also raising the price. The other thing that the Trump administration did, and this is, you must tell all your friends, when October come and they're panicked by the bill that they see, and the Republican machine is immediately going to go out there and say, oh, it's the fault of Obamacare, that's why it's high. Remind them all the things that they did. So far, I've told you 3. The other thing that they did, by removing the individual mandate, it means that a lot of people that are not sick are going to say, well, I'm not going to buy an insurance this year. I'll let it slide. The insurance companies are going to realize it, and they're going to say, okay, we can't have insurance for this price anymore, because there's a lot of people that would have been paying premiums that are not going to pay premiums. So are all the different things that the Trump administration did to kill the bill, or not to kill the bill, to make sure that you're going to have supremely high prices in October. 1, they did not advertise Obamacare to all the people who don't realize that they qualified for Obamacare. So that means less people sign up for Obamacare, less people sign up for the Affordable Care Act. That means higher prices because you have less people. Number 2, they got rid of the individual mandate. By getting rid of the individual mandate, less people are going to buy the policies because there's no, he said he won't enforce the penalty. If you don't enforce the penalty, people are not going to buy the insurance. That means less people again, the price is going. This is what we're starting to call the spiral of death. The third thing is he's not guaranteed to pay. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it is for those insurance companies that take sick people, more sick people than a certain percentage or whatever, the government pays them money for having taken those sick people. That is also gone or likely to be gone. And number 4, we have again this issue about starting to sell junk insurance again. That is very cheap insurance that could say things like, okay, we'll cover you, but we won't cover your back. Oh, but it doesn't cover hospitalization. Oh, but if you're in an emergency room and you use this particular thing, you can't. All these kind of crazy policies that they write that mean absolutely nothing for when you get sick, but they still collect a cheap premium. So in effect, what you're doing is just donating money to those guys. Man, it's so easy for us to donate money to the things that aren't right. And those of us that are doing good work, it's hard for folks to go ahead and it's just amazing. It is amazing the ripoff that happens in the type of economy that we have. So remember, folks, those are the things that you want to tell your family, your friends, that the current administration, Trump and his posse, meaning all those other Republicans that are running, that is what they did to you. Now, when it comes to VA and single payer, the VA is a single payer system. Don't let the news fool you. Every single veteran that enters the VA, once they get in, remember what happens is there are wait times and all of that to get into the VA in certain parts of this country, rural areas, etc., etc., etc. There are waiting times and so forth. But anytime you get into the VA, you have the best doctors, you have very good service, and you know what? For all practical purposes, it's your right. You're a veteran. Now they're talking about, Trump just got rid of the current guy and put in a new one. And what he wants as his mandate is to, here's a word, privatize the VA. Don't let anybody fool you. Anytime you privatize something within the commons, every time you privatize something that was that was once public, that was belonging into the commons, it costs more because there's something special that has to happen. You have to make a profit. And when you make a profit in a business that would have been public, that profit should be really considered an expense. Why is it an expense? Here's the deal. They like to tell you that, well, the reason we want to put it into the private areas is they're going to be innovative and they're going to come out with better solutions and they're going to be more efficient. Look, let me back up from the VA and go to Medicare. Medicare, let's assume Medicare is inefficient. In its inefficiency, the overhead on Medicare is 3%. In other words, all the monies that go into Medicare, only 3% is used for complete administration. And actually, some people say it's less than 3%. So all the money that the government throws into Medicare, remember, we pay a lot of Medicare taxes. If you take a look at your tax, you pay 2.something% in Medicare taxes. Everybody on whatever income you make, 2.something% on Medicare. Of that, you can say that's a hell of an investment you've made because the overhead costs less than 3%. Now, before the Affordable Care Act, health insurance overhead many times was north of 30%. In other words, all the paperwork, the computer system, the advertising, the profit for the shareholders, the dividends for the shareholders, all of that, 30%. So in other words, you pay your premiums. For every dollar you gave them, your 30 cents was going to the executive, 30 cents of that 30 cents of that was going to executive advertising, duplication, meaning many computer systems that each of these guys had. It makes no sense. Healthcare in the private sector makes no sense. Profit in that scenario is nothing more than an expense. Don't let any conservative fool you. Do the numbers. You're sensible. If Medicare has all the same expenses as the regular insurance, and the regular insurance also has to make a profit, relative to Medicare, private insurance has another expense. And that other expense, Medicare can afford to be several times more inefficient than private insurance. And still, it'll be better than private insurance because it's just a numbers game. Do not be fooled. Do not be asked to forget that you know arithmetic. We are very good in this country of telling somebody that gray sky is blue. When Bush wanted to pollute the air, he just called it the Blue Skies Act. And that meant throw more carbon dioxide, throw more of all these other bad gases into the air, and just name the act the Clean Air Act. Or not the Clean Air Act, the Blue Skies Act. And everybody is seeing blue skies, but it's making things more dirty. Now we have somebody asked me, I think it was one of you asked me to talk about all the things that are going back in the administration for the environment. Yes, now they're talking about reducing the efficiency on cars, which means they're saying allow cars to burn more gas. Now here it is. We have oil that is becoming more difficult to find. The oil that we have, a lot more bad oil, meaning a lot of oil with sulfur or more oil that needs better refining. And we have an administration that's going to say, let's go ahead and make cars less efficient. Folks, if you cannot see the dementedness of this administration, and it's not that at all, let me tell you what I think that is. And this is pure speculation on my part. No sensible American car company is going to work on reducing the efficiency on their cars. None of them are going to do that because they know administrations come and go. They know that. But my gut feeling tells me that there is some deal that was made with a car company in some Timbuktu country that once those standards are reduced, you're going to see some cars coming into this country from somewhere else that don't have the standards that our American cars have, and they're going to be allowed to be sold in the country, and so forth and so on. I only talk facts, but when I do speculate, I also tell you right out front that is speculation. That is speculation on my part. And why am I speculating that? I cannot see any sense at all in messing with the fuel standards. I see no possible upside other than bringing in cars that don't burn with the efficiency that we have here in the United States. Okay, so that is my take on the environment. Of course, there's a water issue. One of the things that I was going to talk about, but we don't have the time right now, in the little mini snippets that I had today, was that a lot of people look at Flint, Michigan. Flint, Michigan had the two stories that the media loves, right? They love to use the racial angle, so they could use the racial angle with the water story in Flint. And then we could create all those stories, including me creating that, including me reporting it in that manner at certain times, not remembering that, Egberto, you can't fall for that. You can't fall for that only. That, yeah, Flint has bad water. But you see, if everybody believes that these problems are these type of problems like lead in water and all of that are relegated to those other people, right? They think it is something about those other people. But watch Gupta on CNN and find out now, folks, that bad water with contaminants are all over the country, and it affects us all. Every relative that you have in West Virginia, every relative that you have in Kentucky, every relative that you have in these other places. Contaminated water, but nobody cares about them. That is, we always talk about who doesn't get mentioned and who you don't see on TV. With a lot of minorities, you see them on TV. They're criminalized in the way the news coverage makes them. In Houston, everybody commit crimes of every hue, but somehow crime, if you look at TV, crime looks a certain way. Now, interestingly, the folks in Appalachia, they don't have to worry. They are simply invisible, man. In a lot of ways, that's worse. They are invisible. It's just now with the opioid epidemic and that the Republicans need the votes out there that they're getting some attention. But there is a good understanding of what's going on out there. And it's something that if Democratic politicians of all hues were smart, they would go like hell into Appalachia, and they'll start saying the right things and showing the right things. And man, could we have, like I was telling to Jewel, we could turn that into magic, into political magic that a lot of people are not thinking of right now. Okay, folks, you can still call in 646-716-5812. Again, let me do one more scroll, and I'm going to bring back in Liz and see if Liz has anything to add, because we're going to be leaving the show in a little bit. So let me bring back in Liz. Liz, is there anything you want to add to the show that I mismentioned or screwed up on?
No, I do want to thank you for calling attention to the fact that I put the Office of the Mayor's contact information in your comment section, I would
Yes.
strongly encourage everyone to make your voice heard on this. Compassion is necessary. We have to remain human.
Absolutely. Listen to what Liz has to say. Please look at search for Liz McConnell in the feed, and you'll have the number for the mayor. I don't care if you live in. Most of the people aren't here in Houston, Liz, but I'm asking those people that are not in Houston as well to go ahead and give that mayor a call, because, like she said, let's start looking at the human. Let me run through my feed again one last quick time before we end the show. We have, let's say, Michael Rudden, fixing our water system would cost about $16 billion. Yesterday, believe it or not, Michael, they said the entire water system alone would cost about $1 trillion to fix. And I think that takes into account replacing all the piping that we have under the streets and so forth. Perpetua, can't follow your logic, Mike Cisak. Mike Cisak is our look. Let's go ahead and treat Mike Cisak with a little bit of love, because if we liberals give Mike Cisak a little bit more love, Mike is going to become one of us. He called into the show a couple times, and he's a nice guy. Just a little bit. His thought process sometimes concerns me, but I like Mike Cisak. Let's support coal and fossil fuel corporations and kill the climate. It will happen quickly. 6th great extinction now. Yeah, you know what? The thing about it is how we're going to get extinct, right? It's going to be with these sort of super storms that are going to be very devastating. You know, I told I was in that dentist's office today, and I asked her where the water limit was, and it was 7 feet. Here it is. Think about this. In my town, the water in that dentist's office was up to 7 feet. And then I looked at her and I said, guess what? You're not going to like what I have to say. She said, what? And I said, I have a hunch this is going to happen again right here in Kingwood and throughout Harris County. Liz, I know you don't want to hear that either, but, you know, I don't think we've seen the end of these super floods in this area at all. Mike Cisak, here's a hint. FDR, wage freeze, World War II. I think you need to do some studying on FDR, and also you need to read the Second Bill of Rights by FDR. You can go to my website, egbertowillies.com. Look up the Second Bill of Rights, because it's a thing of beauty, and not only it's a thing of beauty, but he actually read it. Let's see. I know the answer. Profit does not belong in healthcare. Absolutely so. What ingrained health insurance into a mainstay of an employer perk? You know, Cisak, that is what gets me with you. You are an intelligent person. You're absolutely correct. Health insurance kind of began with perks. Unions wanted perks for their employees, and insurance wasn't a thing then. And yes, they brought in insurance as a perk, and that's how it's kind of became a part of our system, because given that everybody was employed and these big employers were given insurance policies, it kind of made sense there. I think it was always wrong to have done that. But then again, because a real free enterprise system, remember, and this is where I get to talk free enterprise versus capitalism. I believe strongly in free enterprise. Everybody, if Liz McConnell want to go out there and form her own business and profit from what she does with her hands, what she does to create, she should be able to do so. But a capitalist system is where we let a few people leverage all the work of others, okay? And in leveraging all of the works of others, if it's not leveraged equitably and based on our current implementation, remember I always said our economy is human-made. Based on our current implementation of capitalism, that's not what happened. What we more have is indentured servitude. Now, for all my Kingwood people who live here with high salaries, etc., 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 to them everything is okay. But they don't know the vast majority of people out there that are working. And they don't partake of the spoils of which they are a part of. And that is why I don't speak about capitalism or wanting capitalism, but free enterprise. Cisak, you were right. You were right that it started with the employer unions, and that's what they could do, but you're wrong in exactly what it really meant. And what it really meant is a bastardization of our health care. What we really need is single payer, Medicare for all. Whenever that occurs, we would have solved all our medical problems. And by the way, that is a bit deeper than that. When I say single payer Medicare for all, it sounds pretty deep. I mean, it doesn't sound pretty deep, but I mean a lot deeper. It has to start from educating, from the doctors that are subsidizing their education, right up to the entire channel of healthcare being subsidized. Because once we define healthcare as a right, we have to create the structures to make it that the country can afford it. Notice I didn't say the person can afford it, but that the country can afford it, realizing that the country must take care of its own, and its own will take care of the country. We are coming to we are at the end of the show. I'm going to go over by about a minute or two. Just want to put in my last plug of the day. If you listen to this show, and I want you to do two things for me. Most importantly, share it. Whether you're listening to it live or not, I ask you to share it, because that is how we are going to get these messages out. Number two, if there are messages within the feed that I passed up or whatever, nobody go out there and say I ignored them. One of my great listeners said to me, you ignored my thing. It's not that. Sometimes it just gets past me, but I always go back into the feed and I try to answer everyone that needs an answer, and with at least a like. But I try to answer those that really require an answer. Lastly, I want to ask you to go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Give this show a coffee or so a month. Give this show $1 a month. Give this show a coffee, whatever you want, and help us stay on here. We need several hundred of you guys out there just being a little part. I always tell people I don't ask for what I don't do. And what I do is I am a subscriber of the Daily Kos. I am the biggest liberal rag in this country. I'm a subscriber of Op-Ed News, another huge liberal rag in this country, liberal website in this country. I also subscribe to the Democratic Underground, which is another large liberal rag in this country. I also subscribe to the Coffee Party USA, which we are also on the Coffee Party Network. I also subscribe to HCDP and a couple others. So I don't ask you to do what I don't do. I'm asking you to be a part of Politics Done Right, just like many of us are a part of a whole lot of these other groups. And don't only do it for Politics Done Right. If you have the wherewithal, do it with other things as well. That is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Reality is we need several hundred of you. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day.
It's Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics